You can read the FTMO challenge rules online in like 5 minutes. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to walk you through how to interpret those rules so that you can best actually approach the challenge, for you to know the hidden rules, the secret rules that aren't on the homepage that you'll find out a little too late, whether it's in your own personal experience or by other people complaining, and whether this is right for you yet. The truth is, passing or failing comes down more to discipline than the strategy itself. So you might not even be ready for something like this. So first, we're going to dive into the challenge rules. I'll walk you through how to approach this in a disciplined way. Second, we'll dive into the hidden rules. This way you can avoid making the mistakes, or you know what, decide maybe it's not even for you anyways. And lastly, what to really consider before you actually spend money on something like this, whether it's with FTMO or with any other prop firm anyways. So let's dive in. All right, so it's a demo account to make it real obvious, real transparent. The big thing is this. This is broken down into 3 steps. So first it's a challenge phase, then it's the verification phase, and you finally have the account where whatever you do on there, you actually get paid out 80% up to 90%. So what does this all mean? And they'll walk you through it in different ways. First, just to give you a landscape of what this looks like, anywhere from 10K to 200K is what you can get access to. This is just how it's marketed. In reality, for example, if you were to get a 100,000 account, you're not getting 100K. You'd get access to 10,000 in drawdown. So different way to look at it. All these big numbers, it's mostly marketing. But the important thing here is, okay, how do I actually get these accounts? Now, across the board, the rules are the same. It all comes down to percentages. So let's look at it this way instead. The first step, your target is 10%. So how much you risk per trade, that is entirely up to you. Now, in my experience, risking less than 1% usually gives you a better chance at getting there. That way you just don't blow up as fast. And I also don't want you to look at this just on percentage. You want to think about it in risk reward drawdown. So for example, the max you can lose in a day is 5%, and the max total you can lose is 10%. So if you're going to risk 1% per trade, then that's 10R. That's 10 risk. So max you can lose net 10R. So is that okay with you? Would you be able to work with those rules? Is that a little bit too much pressure? So you want to find your sweet spot with that. But the profit target, so 10% in the first step. Once you hit that 10%, then you get to the second step, which you only need to do 5%. Now, some other prop firms, they only have one phase. The loss rules are different. So for example, just pull up Alpha Capital over here. They have one phase where all you need to do is 10%. You don't need to go and make another 5%, but your drawdown is only 6% versus an FTMO or other ones where you get 10% drawdown anyways. So it is a little bit different. It all comes down to personal preference, really, but we can get into that a little bit later. Now, the daily loss. So you could lose up to 5% in a day. I don't think you need to, put too much stress on that, though. If you're taking 5% loss in a day, you're probably over trading, or maybe you're just over leveraging in general. So definitely keep this in mind. Sometimes you can get caught up in the moment and you don't even realize you've lost the total of 5%. Now, this is going to be 5% of what your initial account balance is when you start that trading day. And the cool thing about the max loss with this, especially versus futures, here is static. So for example, if you have a 100K account, you get 10% drawdown. So if your account hits 90K, that's when you lose it. So if you go up into profit, let's say you're at 105,000, the only way you lose this account is if you either lose 5% in a day or you get all the way down to 90,000. So static drawdown, definitely a pretty cool feature. And then you have the minimum trading days. So this is for FTMO and these prop firms to kind of get a little bit more away from traders that are trying to full send it, 1 trade, 2 trades to pass it. It's like, okay, no, you got to trade at least four different trading days. Now you could technically get it done in a couple days, and then a small lot size can go to the last couple days. However, I'm going to get into some of the hidden rules where they're making it so that's not really a way to approach it, because what they don't want is gambling traders. What they don't want is people that are putting heavy risk just, to see if they get lucky. It is technically a decent strategy if you have a lot more capital and you're willing to kind of lose more often, but also win more often. But they're definitely not looking to have traders like that by any means. And then the trading period. So you don't have to pass this in a certain amount of time. Once you start it, you can just take your sweet time to do it and get it done. So compared to futures, where you usually only have 30-day cycle and then it either resets or it just charges you again and you can just keep your progress. Here, you're chilling. You pay once and then you're just trading until you blow it or until you pass it. It's pretty simple. Now, that's all step one. Step two, same thing, but instead of making 10%, you just got to make 5%. Some people like 2 steps, some people like 1 step. Honestly, at this point, it's just personal preference. I think it's more of a psychological thing because it feels like you kind of reset when you pass phase 1 and then you have to make another 5%. The way that you want to look at it too is what's the loss to profit target? So for example, if you're going to risk 1% max, then if you minus 10R, you're done. Plus 10R, you pass. Whereas if you're going to do a 1-step challenge, and you want to keep just the same principles, like, okay, how much do I get to risk? How much do I get to make? Well, if you only get 6% of drawdown, then let's say you risk only 0.5%. So if you lose 12R, then you lose the account, but you have to make 20R to pass. Versus with, a 2-step, in this example with FTMO, you would have 10R drawdown, but then you only have 10R to make. Then once you get to step 2, you have 10R drawdown, but then you only have to make 5R. So a total of 15R that you'd have to make, but you just have more wiggle room. All depends. I think this is more of a personal preference, and it's more on the psychology of having to do 2 steps. It seems more difficult. I think it's just up to you, really. And anyway, so once you do that, you lock that in, then you get your FTMO rewards account. At this point, this is when things obviously now have more stakes because one, when you do get your first payout, you get your refund back, which is pretty sweet. Don't get that with futures. And this says up to 90% on the rewards. So let's say you have 100K, you go up 5%, so you're 5,000 in profit, then you're going to get 80% to kick things off. So of that 5,000, you'd actually only get 4,000. On your first payout, you would get 4,000 plus your refunds. You'd get reimbursed what you spent. So this is pretty straightforward. Right now, they're running a promo on the 10K if you don't have one already. So, what I will say is before you even do any of this, do a free trial. If you've never done any sort of prop firm before, do a free trial. That way you can just get used to the asset classes, the lot sizes. You can get used to the spread. See if it makes sense for you. See if it makes sense for your trading approach in general. And then after you've decided that, and if you're newer to trading, you don't have to go spend money on this stuff yet. Go get good at it. We'll dive into that in a little bit, but this is pretty straightforward. Now, let's say you're going to get your first account or an account in general. I do want to show you something that people don't really realize until later, which is the margin. So you only get a 1 to 33. Now this has become pretty standard, at least in the US, where you have 1 to 30, 1 to, in this range. A lot of people are going to complain about having less to work with, less margin. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think they're doing you a favor. Most people are going to blow up if they have more margin to work with. So I think this actually helps more people than it does get in the way. Yes, it's harder to do a huge trade and pass it super fast. But at the end of the day, the first couple of phases here, this is just to prove if you're honestly able to keep it. If you can't even do this, then you're probably not even going to get paid anyways. So think longevity with this. This is not a make it or break it for me by any means. And then also at the moment, they're only using MetaTrader 5 to trade. And this is going through Awanda. Now this is some of what I'm telling you is based on for American traders. If you're not in the US, then your rules might be a little bit differently, and you have access to different features, which is cool. So shout out to you guys. But yeah, now what I want to do is I want to dive into, and this is the more important thing, the hidden rules. So this is pretty standard across the board, a lot of what we talked about, but the hidden rules are what I want to talk about, and here's why. Now, I did a video on just the FTMO coming back to the US and why that is pretty cool. To me, it's a green flag. But there's, like every business and like a lot of these prop firms, there's a little bit of, I would say, gray area. And here's an example of some traders that were, got hit with some surprise emails. And this is the worst kind of email you want to get. Or you think you're killing it, and all of a sudden they send you an email saying, hey, you know what, you're risking too much. I don't see anything about risking more than 1% in a trade on this screen, on the homepage. But guys, when you look into the terms and conditions and some of these FAQs, they're hidden. So it doesn't seem to be implemented super consistently. So this is something that could kind of get in the way of your process if you're not aware. So what they don't want to see is you risking more than 1% per trade idea. So let's say you're taking a US 30 trade, a Dow trade, and you risk 0.5%, but then you open up another trade and another trade. They don't want to see you going over 1%. It's what it looks like. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody, but you might as well avoid it. So in this case, risk over 1%, they didn't get banned or anything, but basically it was like, yo, watch it. And then they got another notice for, I think it was stacking entries in one direction, so one-sided betting. So here's the thing. There's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of different hidden rules. So first we have the 1% risk ceiling per trade. So watch that one for sure. Then we have they don't want to see one big jackpot trade. So if you want to dive deeper into this, and I'm going to link these in the description so you can kind of be more well aware of what to wait for. They have these forbidden trading practices here. So basically some of these are like, don't have anyone trade for you, don't trade other people's accounts, using software to high frequency trade and do whatever shady trading, gap trading, etc. So there's a couple different things that they have in here. Same thing with the risk rules. They don't want you just stacking entries when your trades are going into drawdown. So these aren't official. They're like loose. And then they have this other, they made this other form here where it's gambling is not the right way to make money. And so basically what they don't want you to do as well is keep trading the same asset multiple times. So one thing that I found here was they put you in like a 1 hour cooldown. So where you can't trade that same asset class for an hour if you are like just stacking entries in one way. So really weird rules that they're starting. This is something that started to happen, looks like more so in 2025. So to reemphasize, 1% risk ceiling. We have consistency over like huge trades. That's how they want to see it. Cool down review period. So if you're really aggressive, then it looks like they're going to be just, you may get an email about how that is approached. So what to do? Keep your trades under 1%. Don't just spam your entries with one asset class multiple times. So, pick your shot, maybe 1-2 trades max when you're going to take the trade. To me, it's going to be better anyways. Like if it's easier to manage when you're more specific, when you're more structured. And on top of that, no hyperactive trading. These are the things that you want to keep in mind more than anything. So to make sure to ensure that you're not getting these weird emails, these are the big ones. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Should you do a challenge right now? Is that right for you? If you haven't been trading demo, if you haven't been practicing your systems, I probably wouldn't get one yet. Do a free trial, start getting in the groove of trading. Like what you want to have for sure is make sure you have a trading system. Do you have a duplicatable entry strategy? Do you have a duplicatable exit strategy? Do you know what your risk tolerance is? So are you able to keep a consistent risk and then have a losing streak and not freak out? Do you also have a way where you manage your trade? So make sure you have a system. If you don't have that and you're still experimenting and just learning from, whatever resources you want to learn from, then get it down first. Then put your skills to a test with a trial, demo. And then if you want to do a challenge, whether it's with FTMO or any other ones, there's plenty of them. I know if you guys ever don't know what is good or what's bad, because there's a lot of promotions, ads running, prop firm match is a pretty decent place to check things out. It's like Trustpilot for trading. As always, just do your own research. Don't just trust whatever you see, critically think. But this is what I want you guys to do, is make sure you're just prepared. When you do challenges, it's not like you don't want to just throw your money at this thing so it solves today's problems. It's still a skill, and it's still something that's going to take you weeks, months, if not years, to scale to a point where you are making substantial, or you're making something worth your time. So if right now you don't have anywhere to learn from in a structured process, everything I have is for free. So you can learn from A to Z, like how to build a system, just literally everything for free. So that's going to be linked in the description or tagged somewhere here. And so you guys can dive in there. But more importantly, I wanted to make sure that you guys are just aware of the official rules, how to approach them in a way where you'll actually keep them and you have a more longevity-based thinking. The hidden rules, which seems like the biggest thing, is they don't want the boom or bust trader. They don't want the trader that, high risk, high reward. They kind of want you to grind it out, earn it. So it seems like the best way to approach that is just stick to under 1% risk per trade, and which is basically under 1% even in that asset class for the hour. And that seems to be the way that you won't really get, these weird emails. Now, these kinds of things are happening on a lot of different firms. So to be honest, if this is a make it or break it for you, then consider maybe looking into different firms or even looking into futures as well. Top Step, Apex, they have their own approach. It is a different game as well. But at the end of the day, you don't have to trade prop firms. You can just trade your own money, and you don't have to deal with any of the restrictions. There's pros and cons to both. So I'd say the way I approach things is prop firms are an income stream for a trader. It's a great way to get your capital up. You can spend $500, $600, and it gets you access to $10,000 of drawdown. And if you do that responsibly, then it could definitely be worth it. But if you are in an experimental phase, in a learning phase in your trading, don't rush into this. You don't have to go and spend on your money and prove to somebody or yourself that you can do it. This is a skill that takes time. This is a skill that, like any other high performance profession, takes time to develop. So don't use the prop firms as a crutch. This type of income, especially if you're newer, this isn't meant to replace your traditional income, your 9-to-5, your business right away. Just use this to just amplify your net worth, grow it, and then later on, maybe you'll be in a stage where it makes more sense. But yeah, that should give you guys at least a pretty good perspective on how to approach FTMO challenge. If you have any other specific questions, then yeah, just drop a comment, subscribe so we can stay in the loop, and feel free to join our free community. We have a whole bunch of stuff we do. Oh, and I trade every morning live. So anything you guys want to know, also tune in right there. Monday through Friday, I'm trading live right here on YouTube. So thanks for watching, guys. Drop a comment, like, and subscribe. See you in the next one.